Subscribe and click on the bell icon to be the first to see the latest videos.
Please welcome Dev.
All right. Thank you, and good morning to everybody. I know, this topic that I'm going to be talking about is obviously boring, compliance, and GST, but just bear with me for the next 15, 20 minutes. And what I'd like to do today is, ClearTax, just as a quick introduction, we're basically a tax technology company. Our mission and vision is to basically simplify the finance and taxes for India. We've been doing this for the last 8 years now. On the GST front, as I'm sure most of you, or maybe through your teams, the tax teams have been trying to keep up with, what are the many changes that continuously happen. I think the government is back in power. The new GST, what was earlier being called as a simplified return, in fact, they've actually dropped the word simplified now, and they're just calling it the new GST. So I'll just take a few minutes to explain some of the updates as to what is coming, and then maybe from a CFO perspective, I think from how technology can help, what are the things that you could probably look at is some of the things that I just wanted to leave you with. So feel free to kind of stop me even during the presentation, and if there are any questions, happy to take that. Right? So, so just very quickly, what is the simplified return or the new returns that is actually coming? If you really look at it, if you go back 2 years ago, when July 17, when the actually GST was launched, the government had a very ambitious plan, right? They had the concept of 1, 2, and 3, 1 being your output, 2 being your purchase, 3 being kind of a summary return. And they said that you will have to do all of these 3 returns on a monthly basis and with a concept of invoice matching. So the core concept of GST, where you have to take an input tax credit, the concept was that you would have to basically match that with your suppliers, right, at an invoice level, and then basis that, take your credit. So that in a nutshell was what the government had launched. I think if you look back, most of we were fairly ambitious because, see, today as a business, we barely are able to get all of our data, be it the sales and purchase, kind of locked down on a monthly basis, put that together in the ERP. So I think it was a fairly ambitious plan that we had to be able to do the invoice matching. So I think that's what all of us saw, that in roughly around November of 2017, they kind of scrapped the concept of invoice matching. They said that the GSTR2 is not required, and they introduced a concept of a 3B. A 3B, which is kind of a summary return of the 3, where they're saying that basically you, on a self-provisional basis on your books, just like how you were taking credit in the VAT regime, the service tax regime, you can continue to basically basis your books, basis your actual purchase in your GL, you can calculate the input credit, go ahead and submit that and take credit and continue. So that was basically what they had introduced in November of 17. Then what happened was that they started to basically start issuing notices to different taxpayers if they started to see that you are taking additional credit than what is actually in something called a 2A. A 2A is basically a mirror of what your suppliers are actually filing, right? So the government, even though actually had pushed that out, the taxes overall collections were actually dropping, right? Over the last 2 years now, it's stabilized roughly around even this month, luckily, even though the overall economy is down, we're at a 1 lakh crore is what we touched in July. Right? So what was happening is that the government saw that the actual tax collections were dropping, and so they started to realize that probably because of people not in the supply chain not actually paying their taxes, they started to essentially go after, whenever they saw a discrepancy between what you were taking in your 3B or what you were claiming in your 3B versus what was actually available in terms of input credit that was available through your supply chain. So that that was kind of what ended up happening. And so most businesses, the other thing that also happened was that the annual return as part of your GSTR 9, the annual return effectively was asking you for reconciliation statement at an invoice level. So even though they kind of pushed that out and said that you don't need to do that, now, which is of course, the deadlines got pushed multiple times. I think December 18 was going to be the first deadline for the first financial year, the 9 months, the first 9 months of GST, which was basically July to March, right? July 17 to March 18. That was the first 9 months, and they said for that period of time, you need to essentially submit a final reconciliation statement, like sum up all of the GST registrations you have at a business level, and essentially show me a reconciliation that if you have taken overall this much throughout the course of year, how does that actually stack up against your 2A? And that kind of a reconciliation statement was something that the government asked for to do in GSTR 9, which the deadline for is 3 weeks away in this month, right? So that's when most governments, as a post facto, started to do, most businesses started to do basically a reconciliation at an invoice level, right? So what now the government is basically saying is that now that the IT systems have stabilized, most of the ERPs, accounting systems also have stabilized, have understood the core concepts, the data is in place, we will now move to the original, effectively the original concept. The original concept being that every month you will be given a period of time, a 10-day window effectively, for you to, they've retermed the GSTR 1 broadly into something called an Annexure 1. Annexure 1 is basically you will have to report all of your liabilities, right? So be it your B2B sales, your B2C export, SEZ, even your RCM, anything from an output liability. So even if you're making any, basically purchases from an unregistered vendor or a reverse charge mechanism, even that will come as part of your Annexure 1, which is your output liability. And then you will be given a 10-day window every month to actually view the Annexure 2, which is an equivalent of the GSTR 2A, right? What your suppliers are actually filing or against you. You will actually be given a complete view into that, and automatically your RET 1, which is the return 1, which is the 3B will be done away with, and RET 1 will automatically be populated. This was essentially what the government is trying to do. But note here is that for all the credit that will be available in an Annexure 2, if you do not accept it, it will automatically get accepted into your books, which is a tricky thing to do. Maybe for a small business, assuming you are not maintaining your books correctly, you're not doing all of that, you can probably do that. But as a larger enterprise, a proper corporate, you would need to now actually reconcile, obviously, your books against what the Annexure 2 is, right? There may be portions of the credit which is ineligible, right? Depending on your nature of business, right? There are certain types of claims that are ineligible. There may also be ITC that is coming into your register which may not belong to you as well, right? We have seen this in the earlier, like for example, they are putting it under a wrong GSTIN, right? They may be like lot of companies that I see, even in terms of travel credit, airline credit, hotel credit, they don't have a copy of the invoices or a recording in their purchase register. So that also may lie as part of your Annexure 2, right? So all of these, it's basically become a process where now every month, rather than doing it as a post facto, that is where you're doing it at the end of the either a quarter or 6-month period, or in some cases doing it at the end of the financial year as part of your reconciliation exercise for GSTR 9 for the annual return, you now will need to be doing this every month. Otherwise, you are obviously at risk to lose input credit, right? Which is going to be directly affecting the cash flow, obviously, of any business, right? So that is, so the true GST is essentially going to come into effect starting October 1. So that's basically the key message that the GSTN and the the government is basically saying. So maybe, yeah, so I think a lot of it is kind of technical details. I don't want to kind of bore you with the details, but at a broad level, that's the key message that we're trying to say here. Of course, there is also, like the RET1 is for a business that is, any turnover more than 5 crore. There is also for the composition scheme, those who have opted for a quarterly return, as well as those who are less than 5 crore in turnover, you have a slightly simplified format. The one is the quarterly return and a different return type that you can opt for, the Sahaj and Sugam forms, if you're familiar with that. Those also exist for the smaller taxpayers. So maybe I'll just spend a few minutes to explain what are the key events maybe through this slide. So what I was trying to say is, assuming that you had to do your return, let's say for the month of April, right? So you have, so in April 19, like I said, so everybody, all businesses will, be mandated to, there's also a concept of a continuous upload, right? So what they're saying is that as and when, and also I'll also maybe touch upon, maybe relevant for this audience, is the e-invoicing concept. So the government also, if you've seen over the last few weeks, have also launched a draft, and they're asking, I'm sure all of you CFOs or your teams would have got information of this from the GST Council. We obviously work closely with them, so we have the draft copies, we've given them a lot of feedback. But each of you as a CFO or tax folks in the organization would have got a copy of this, and also they're seeking feedback. Right? So the concept of e-invoicing is relevant here, because what they're basically trying to do is trying to reduce the need for, so today whenever you receive a digital copy of your invoice, let's say from your vendors, you basically will have an accounting team that's capturing all of that. Either you may have built some OCR technology, or you may be just manually punching in directly into your GL, right? You'll be punching into all of your purchase bills and raw material, whatever, all the purchases that are coming in through that. So the concept is that today, every time any GST registered taxpayer in the country, once they're making a sale, you will effectively in real time be able to receive a reference number. A reference number, against that reference number issued to anybody, I can directly download all the metadata, as in I can download all of the data behind that without me punching it in manually, right? So this, or similar to an e-way bill concept also, right? Just like how the check post, you had this concept of an e-way bill where a person can just scan that number and they will know the invoice number, the date, the value of it, all of the goods that are existing in an invoice, right? So the same, essentially the same concept is being now extended out to all businesses. In the e-way bill, it was only for those that are transported across states, all of that, right? It did not include services. It did not include so many other things, right? It was a fairly, it ended up being a restricted set in terms of in terms of capturing a unique invoice. So now they are essentially bringing that concept, e-invoice. They've realized that there's a lot of manual entry, and this is what we also saw over the last 2 years, that most of the reconciliation challenges were around manual entry, changes of dates, changes of tax amounts, all of that. So it's a grand thought and a design where we are all saying that the GSTN is basically saying that we'll issue for every registered sale that is happening in the country, there will be one invoice. They're not saying that they will change your ERPs, right? You continue to use whatever invoicing system, accounting system, ERP, whatever it is, right? We're just saying that once you do that, you submit a copy of that electronic real time, and we'll issue you a unique number. That unique number can be given to your customer. That customer can download all of the data and keep that in your books very easily. So in one sweep, hopefully in the next 2-3 years, obviously this will take a while for a country as large and diverse as us to accept something like this, where you can basically at least remove the need for manually data entry. Of course, there will, country where still we make payments primarily on a signed copy of a physical copy of an invoice that comes into the procurement department, all of those things. All of those things also we are seeing will change, right? People are starting to accept e-invoices. Like 80% of our customers today, we as a vendor to them, they don't ask for a physical copy of our invoice anymore, and we are able to get payment through an electronic invoice. So same way, this is just taking that to the next level, saying that there's behind this, all of the metadata can come down, right? So, but that's the future. That's where we want to go to. Coming back to now, what we have to do, as what each of us have to do as a taxpayer in a business is basically this kind of diagram is what each of us will have to go through starting October. Effectively saying that the 10th of the month is kind of a period when which you will continuously upload your documents, which is the annexure 1, that is all your output liability. Like I said, coming down the road, all of those documents will automatically get a e-invoice number. For now, there is no concept of e-invoice here. It's just your regular invoice number that is booked as part of your ERP that gets uploaded to the network. You'll get this 10-day window between 10th and 20th, if you can see that. I should know how to operate this, but anyway, so between the 10th and 20th is when you will have 3 actions. You basically can either accept, reject, or mark as pending. That means whatever credit you see in your annexure 2, you will have to take any of these 3 actions. On every purchase that you have made every month, you will have to do at an invoice level and at a vendor level, you will have to take these actions. Every month, for you to be able to claim credit and for you to automatically, they say this is what you need to do to automatically prepare your RET 1. Okay? So I don't know, so this, and this was in the original, this was also in the original GST law that like I mentioned in November 17 was pushed out, and the kind of a simplified, the real simplified 3B was launched. So you will have to do this in this now. What happens is, now so many questions, right? What if your supplier has not put an invoice? You have a copy of it, yet you want to take credit on that and it is missing. So the government is saying, okay, in that case, you can upload, let's say out of 100 invoices, 95 are there, you're taking credit on that, 5 are missing. So the government is saying, boss, okay, submit me 5 of those invoices. If your supply chain, your vendor base has not uploaded in missing invoices, you are allowed to basically take that, but submit a copy of those. Therefore, you see that's how they're creating the whole chain, right? So this will also do away with any fake invoices, whatever, right? If you are taking, okay, so there is this kind of a complex workflow that is getting created at an invoice level. And which is why we believe that software can automate all of this and help you to take these actions very easily. This is what you will have to do in this thing. So yeah, I think since we are already out of time, so you will have to track. There is also, so for example, if the full credit is not available, right, and you want to reject a particular invoice, so you will need to reject that. There will be a need for you to communicate with your vendors, right? So again, the need for a technology system to keep track of all of that, to be able to communicate with them, resolve those issues in a very quick manner. So a lot of these changes are coming. It's becoming a true kind of a network finally. The GST is actually going to become a true network where everybody will have to be on a single platform, right? Exchanging these invoices with each other. You'll have to knock it off. You'll have to accept, take your credit, be able to communicate with them, resolve issues in real time. Others, this will directly, obviously, impact, cash flow. And so ITC really is that new currency or the new GST that's coming about. So I'll kind of pause here. Hopefully, it was not too much into the weeds. But if people have general questions and how are your organization's kind of getting ready for this, happy to answer anything. Yeah, so there's a lot of detail which I think I'll not want to bore you on, but yeah, so so I think these are some of the kind of areas I'd encourage you as a CFO to kind of think about, like, do I have a dashboard today where I can see, you know, what is the state of my business in terms of compliance, and today the GST data can throw all of that, right? Can I get a dashboard that will show me what is my sales purchase in each of my GSTINs? Have I done my filing on time? Are there any potential notices? Right? What issues can actually happen as a CFO or a tax head of an organization? I think, do I have something that with all my data backed up, tomorrow if I have an assessment, right, a department will continuously question you, come to you, ask for, okay, hey, what happened in July 17, this particular invoice, do you have that at a click of a button? Today, with the right tool, with the right technology in place, all of this is possible. And so I would highly encourage you all to think about these questions, like, do you have this data at your fingertips? Right? We talk about big data, we talk about AI. All of this is actually happening. And interestingly, when I talk to CFOs, most of them say that, hey, I think the government is way ahead because they have all of our data. Because we are uploading it, I don't have a backup. I do not know what issues exist in it. Have I put the right tax rate? Have I tagged the right HSN? Am I going to get any notice? I am always on the back foot. They are the ones sending me the notice because they have all the data. They're able to throw a quick 3B versus 2A and just send me a notice. And I did not even expect that. So very interestingly, most of the businesses are saying that the GSTN has that power. I want that power now. I want all my data in a single place and somebody reading that and telling me, okay, what can potentially go wrong, and do that, and not rely on a consultant, and also have that data with me, right? So I think those are some of the things, you know, I'd love to, have you guys think about, and if there are questions, happy to answer it. Thank you so much.